Hey y'all, it's me, your favorite friend and host, Kiana, and you are listening to Chats with Friends, the show where we talk about all things life, love, relationships, healing, all of the things. And thank you so much for stopping by. How the heck have you been? How have I been, you ask? Y'all, we have so much to talk about. So grab your drink of choice and a snack so we can chat. And just like that, we are back. Welcome to another episode of Chats with Friends, the podcast. I am your host and your favorite friend, Kiana J. Welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time, and for my regulars, hey y'all, hey. Here on Chats with Friends, we have those candid conversations. We keep it REAL about all things life, love, relationships, and anything else we want to chop it up about. And today we are going to be talking about falling off the goal bandwagon and how to get back on. Before that, some of us are meeting for the first time and some of us are getting to know each other a little bit better. So we're going to do a little icebreaker question like always. I'm going to pull from one of my newer decks of cards. It's some affirmation cards I got down to the Amazon. And I'm going to read and answer the question, and I want y'all to reflect on the question as well and share your answer in the Q&A, or hop on over to Instagram on our Chats with Friends handle. You have connected with us on Instagram, haven't you? If you haven't, what are you waiting for? Get on over there and hit the follow button. All right? And then give us your response to the question. We'd love to hear, we'd love to share and chat it up over there on the Chats with Friends Instagram handle. Thank ya. Anyway, before we do that, what are you all drinking and snacking on today? Me? I literally just got finished eating a cheese stick. I know that's not much of a snack, but I had a cheese stick, and I cannot for the life of me these days get warm. So I'm drinking some tea. I have been going through it temperature wise. My body temperature just will not regulate itself. I don't know. I mean, I am, the hot flashes are hot flashing, but just even aside from that, like I'll just get cold and I'll like clench my teeth, and then all of a sudden my nose will start sweating, and that's the hot flash coming. But even with my heat on, I'm just like, I can't get warm. And that's me. I'm drinking some tea. My favorite tea, one of my favorite teas is this ginger peach turmeric tea, and it has some lemon, and I have a little bit of or sugar-free, what syrup do I have in it? I want to say vanilla syrup I have in it. I don't know. One of the syrups. I can't think of the one I have in it right now, but that's what I'm drinking. So I want to know what you guys are drinking and snacking on today. Let me know over on IG on Chats with Friends, or in the comments section so we can chop it up. So let me get some tea. It's so good and warm on the inside. Oh, yes. So my icebreaker question today that I'm pulling from these affirmation cards, and it's 60 positive affirmation cards with empowering questions. So I'm going to randomly pick one of these cards of these empowering questions, and I'm going to answer it in the moment. And wow, this one is deep. The affirmation is, I am worthy of success, however I choose to define it. And then the question on the back says, what is my definition of success? And in what ways am I worthy of success? So, wow. Let me see. What is my definition of success? I think that's a great question. It's one I often ask, like in the workplace or with clients or with people I'm talking about when we're talking about, when I'm interviewing or that sort of thing. Like, how do people know that they're successful in the workplace, or that they're meeting the expectations? And so I would say individually for me, success looks like, or the definition of success for me is alignment. Like when my heart is aligned with Like when the things that I'm doing in my day to day, the places that I'm visiting, the people that I'm engaging with, the things that I'm watching on TV are in alignment with my heart's desires, right? That I feel good in my heart and in my soul, and that I'm doing, and I'm happy, and I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm doing what feels good to me. That to me right now in my life, that is success for me. Alignment is success for me. And in what ways am I worthy of success? I'm worthy because I was born. And I think I talked about this on a couple episodes ago. Like just the mere fact that God saw fit to put me on this earth, to create me, to create you, that makes us worthy. We don't have to do anything else other than be the amazing humans that we are. And we inherently are worthy of success just by our mere existence. Don't let anybody tell you any different, please. Please and thank you. So anyway, getting into this topic of goals. So I don't know if y'all have checked the calendar, but it is May. It is May. It's May, as in January, February, March, April, May. And I'm not quite sure who pushed fast forward on the calendar, but I say this every single year. I get to certain points in the year and I'm like, how is it May already? Or how is it July already? Or how is it already Christmas, right? And these dates, they're the same every year. But somehow or another, it feels like time just speeds up and gets faster and faster, and things go faster. And time is just flying by, although we've been saying time is flying by for decades now, but it just seems like it's flying a little bit faster. But it's May, and flowers have sprung, and the sun is out, and the days are longer, and we are outside. We are outside. I talk to people that live in Seattle all the time, and like if there's like 3 rays of sunshine, like Seattle lights are outside. Like they're ditching work, the key is they ditching everything to be outside because it's just so beautiful. It's really nice here in Chicago as well today. And it's supposed to be for the next couple of days. But we are outside. And May also reminds me that, you know, along with the fact that we're in the 5th month of the year already, that we are knee deep in the 2nd quarter of the year. It literally also means that we are almost one halfway through the year already. Like, how are we almost halfway through the year already? Like, I don't know. I'm just in my own head. It feels like we were just celebrating New Year's Eve just like a few months ago. But anyway, as I looked at the calendar and I noticed how fast time was flying, and I noticed what the date was and the month that we were in, and that we were nearly halfway through the goddamn calendar, it got me thinking and pondering and just sort of reflecting. I was thinking like, okay, where am I at with my goals, my intentions, my vision, the things that I wrote down and set way back in January of this year? Like, where am I at with those things? And because I'm a fan of keeping it all the way real, I have to keep it real and say, I haven't really looked at those things that I wrote down in a few months. And so I gotta confess that I've been caught up on the hamster wheel of life. And yeah. So some of the things many of the things that I'd written down on that list have kind of fallen by the wayside or fallen off of my mind, because they weren't present or in the front of my mind, or I hadn't put things into place to make myself remember. Because literally, if it's not in front of my face at 51, I don't know where it don't exist. If it's not on my calendar, it don't exist. So anywho, I'm happy to say that I'm back. And that sort of jarring effect that the calendar had on me prompted me to dust my list off and get back on track. So I wanted to just share with you all today some of the ways that I have gotten back on track. If you're anything like me, you may have written some things down or set some intentions or goals for 2023 and you kind of forgot about them and you're like, oh yeah, damn, I forgot I wrote some stuff down that I wanted to do, I wanted to be about in 2023 and they're, on a shelf somewhere. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit about what I've done, and I thought it would be helpful for me to share it with you all so we can get back on track together because we're buddies, right? Because we're friends. And so iron sharpens iron, and we make each other better, right? So I reflected and, looked back on the things that I have done. And once I dusted my list off, and so I'm just going to go through those with you. Number one was I looked at the list and I had to refocus and reassess and sort of reprioritize those goals and that vision. And the way that life be lifing and the world be worldin', I had to take a peek at those and just really ask myself, do these still apply? Do these even matter? Are these things that I actually still want? Has my vision shifted a bit? I mean, things change, life changes pretty rapidly. So are these things that I wrote down in January still in alignment with my values, with where I want to go or where I want to be? Are they still relevant? Those were some of the questions that I was asking myself when I looked at that list. And one of the things I told myself was, if the answer is no, that is okay. So I started to ask myself these questions, and I was like, was this pressure from something or someone external? Where did this list come from? Was it because I have a story in my head about where I'm supposed to be in life or what I should have accomplished by this age or by this time? So I had to dig deep and have these vulnerable conversations with myself and ask myself these questions. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the fact that we wrote something down and now we've had a change of heart and we've had a change of mind. And if I may, let me relieve you of a little bit of stress and let you know that guess what? You get to change your mind, and you are the author of your life, and you get to write down, design it how you want. So if what you wrote down in January no longer applies now, you get to delete it. You get to Control-Alt-Delete. It's that simple, right? As I was looking through the list, one of the goals that I had written down was that it was to have a theme or a word for each month. Excuse me. And although it sounded like a really good idea, and it actually is a really good idea, when I reflected back on why I had wrote that down or listed that, I realized I really didn't know why, other than I had saw someone else write it, set that as an intention for their lives and set that as a goal for themselves. And I was like, that sounds like a really good idea. I should have a theme. I should have a word for a theme for my life every month. And once I began to ask myself why I would need a theme or a word for the month, I realized that that's not something I actually need or that I even want for my life. And so it was influenced by something I'd seen, something I had read somewhere on social media. And not to say being influenced is wrong or bad or anything like that, but I really had to check in with myself about why I wrote that and really get back to the core of who I am and what it is that I want, not what external things or places or people or whatever they're showing as goals and intentions for themselves. So number one thing that I did was to refocus and reprioritize and reassess my goals. So that was number one. Number two, I had to identify some distractions and time wasters in my life, right? And as I look at the totality of the things that I want to create for myself in 2023, what is distracting me from that? What is wasting my time, and preventing me from actually moving the needle on some of the things that I want to do? aside from the fact that I wasn't looking at the list. But I had to reclaim my time, right? And I had to take a real hard look at where I was spending my time. And although I have a love-hate relationship with this damn iPhone, it does have this really cool feature that tells you about how much time you've been spending, how much screen time you've been using and engaging with over the week. And it'll give you like little notifications. It's nosy as hell. I will say that. This goddamn thing is nosy as hell. But anyway, it'll tell you like, Kiana, your screen time has been up 10% over, last week, this time last week. You're using this much more screen time, or you're online this much more. Although irritated, and I just be like, really? Nobody asked you? Nobody in the whole wide world asked you. But it's actually really insightful. And so having those sort of indicators and alerts in your life or set up in your life as to how and where you're spending your time are actually important when you're looking at your goals and the things that you want to create, and where your time is being sucked up or where you might be wasting time, so you can adjust. And you may look at that information and be like, well, I was on screen more because I was doing X, Y, and Z, or, that could be furthering your goal. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Or if you got the swipies like me, that might be the reason why you're spending more time online. Number 1 is to refocus on your priorities, and reassess your goals. Number 2, identify distractions and time wasters. And number 3 is take action and develop a plan with some actual measurable and identifiable steps. So one of the best ways to get back on track means you actually have to start doing something towards accomplishing that thing, right? You have to actually move. You actually have to take a step. So I don't know about you, but when I write down my goals, or typically, I guess that's the word, when I write down my goals, they tend to be pretty broad, right? So for example, you may write down lose 20 pounds. But rarely in that list do you develop the plan to actually lose the 20 pounds, right? So this year, one of my goals was to read 3 books from front to back. Now, if you know anything about my love of books and the fact that I love to read, I buy books all the time, and I literally start reading them, and I'll read like the first 1 or 2 chapters, the first few pages, and then I see some other book that I'm like, oh my God, that looks great. And then I buy that book, and then I start reading the first few pages or first couple of chapters of that book. And then I'll run across somebody online that recommends some book, and I'm like, oh, I have to get that book. And I'll start reading that book, a few chapters of that book. And then before you know it, I have a collection of a bunch of books that I've only read the first 15 pages of. So I looked at my goals and I realized that I needed to come up with a plan. So I'd written down that I wanted to read 3 books front to back, right? And part of my reasoning for wanting to read 3 books front to back is really an exercise around discipline for me, and really around the idea of completing something from start to finish. And I have what I call shiny object syndrome. So I have a tendency, I'm a visionary, I'm a creative. And so I will get these ideas, and then I'm off to the next thing, like once that kind of gets going. So I know that about myself. And so for me, one of the reasons I get these books is because I like to read, and it's information, and a lot of it is learning, and a lot of it is self-development, and I can't ever get the information that is contained in the books if I don't actually read the damn book. So anywho, I say all that to say that I had to come up with a plan for reading my 3 books, right? And so how did I do that? I was like, first of all, Kiana, you got to figure out which 3 goddamn books you want to read. Like, you have a whole bookshelf full of books. So which 3 books do you want to read, and why? So I did that, and I wrote them down. And then I had to look at those 3 books, and I was like, okay, which one of those 3 do you want to read first? And so I determined that, and I wrote that down. And then I was like, okay, so that book has X number of pages in it, right? And so I figured that out. I wrote that down. I was like, okay, this is book number 1. It has this many pages. And then I was like, okay, so I have 3 books I want to read in a year. It's almost May, so that means I'm going to have to do whatever the math is, right? And so I had determined that I want to read this first book within 30 days. So I had to figure out the time frame. So I wrote that down. And then I went through the calculation of figuring out how many pages a day I needed to read in order to complete the book in 30 days. So how many pages, how many days, and then that would determine the number of pages I needed to read per day. So I wrote that down. And then I put the book on my nightstand or in my bed, right? In my bed next to me, so that it's a reminder and it keeps me, committed to my plan that I had set aside for myself. So that is an example, right, of like how to take action and take measurable steps. Like sometimes our goals are so big, right? I want to, losing 20 pounds can be a big thing, but what does that mean for you? What is your plan to lose the 20 pounds? Is it, I'm going to walk once a week and I'm going to prepare one of my meals per day versus ordering Uber Eats or DoorDash, whatever it is, right? So you have to come up with a plan. And I know that this sounds like rudimentary, and I know we've all heard this before, but just because it seems like obvious, sometimes we don't do the obvious things in order to get the results that we want. So just breaking it down and making it make sense, like actually having a plan. And then also being adaptable and flexible, right? Because there are some times and there are some days where I am like, I could read the 9 pages, but am I actually going to absorb it? Because that's what I have to read is 9 pages of this book. And if I have to read these 9 pages, am I actually going to absorb it? Because I am dead dog tired, or I'm just distracted, or, whatever it is that's going on with me. Like, do I just read it to check the box and say I read the 9 pages? Is that really serving the greater goal or the greater good of what it is that I want to do, which is to get information, to retain the information, apply the information. So if I'm just reading it for the sake of reading it so that I can check the box and say, I read my 9 pages, I committed, I kept my commitment to myself. There's something to be said about that, but there's also something to be said about honoring where you are in the process and being flexible and knowing that sometimes you're just going to have to, make a little tweak or change to the plan. So be able to roll and go with the flow and adjust accordingly. Another thing that I think is important in getting us on track for our goals and our vision and our intentions is to hold ourselves accountable and or find an accountability partner. I looked up the word accountability because so I looked up the word accountability and it says liable or answerable. And so that made me ask the question, who am I liable for or to, and who am I answerable to, right, with respect to these goals or these visions? And so I would encourage you to ask yourself the same questions. Who are you answerable to, or find someone to be answerable to about your goals and or your vision that you have. And I found, especially around fitness and losing weight and things like that it is so super hard to be accountable to yourself, right? Because we can talk ourselves out of anything. We can talk ourselves out of going to the gym because we got an eyelash in our eye, or whatever, because there's nobody there to challenge us. There's nobody else but our own selves, our own thoughts to challenge us. Now, if you have the ability to check yourself, I think we all have that ability, but do we deploy that ability is the other question. I think sometimes we don't. We just kind of talk ourselves out of things. So I encourage you to find someone to partner with, someone that can hold you accountable, someone that you trust to share your goals, your dreams, and your vision with, and that they will check you when you are out of alignment, right? Like when you are not doing what you said that you were going to do. You know, not the ones that are like, girl, I know you got an eyelash in your eye, and I know last time I had an eyelash in my eye, girl, I could not see, so I know that is painful, so don't go to the gym, girl, just go tomorrow. Right? I mean, you know, you need those friends too, but like when you're really trying to get some shit done and get some shit accomplished and really want to advance the needle on some things, you need those people in your corner that are going to be like, Kiana, if you don't get some eye drops, and if you don't get a piece of tissue and get that eyelash out of your eye and get your ass to the gym, you better, right? So, you know, you need them both. It's a both and. And then lastly, I would just say, stay motivated, right? Stay or get motivated, right? And when I looked at the list and looked at my list, I got remotivated. I got excited again. I was like, yeah, I get to do and create these things for myself, and I get to like be in alignment, and I get to create fun and create joy and create experiences. And that is really sort of the theme, sort of the through line of some of the vision for my life this year, is creating joy and creating experiences and, you know, setting myself up for the future. I'm 51 years old, and I really got I really started late in a lot of areas, right? With respect to savings and with respect to getting my affairs in order around retirement and setting up the appropriate documentation for my grandson, so that if something were to happen to me, that he would be set up. Having a will, making sure that my family don't sell my goddamn house. Like, anybody, if something happened to me, please tell my family, don't sell my goddamn house, right? I want my house paid off, and I want my grandson to not have to worry about a place to live, right? So I want him to have a place to live, and if he chooses to live here, great. If he chooses to keep it and rent it out and have something else to live in, great. If he chooses to sell it and buy himself a different home, great, right? But I don't want him to have to start from the beginning with some of the basics like housing. So y'all don't sell my house, okay? Okay, so there's that. But, you know, those are some of the things that I have on my list, is to make sure the trust is set up, and to make sure that my beneficiaries, information is all updated. You know, some of it are just little tasks I need to check off my list. But yeah, it's just really getting my ducks in a row and getting myself set up and sort of entering, you know, this next phase of adulthood that I've embarked on in my 50s, Lord, today. But anyway, staying motivated, celebrating the wins. A win is a win, and I'm not even going to say small wins or large wins, because really a win is a win. So whatever steps you are making to put you closer to your goals is a win, right? And we're going to celebrate. I'm the queen of celebrations, so we're going to celebrate all of the things. But sometimes it's celebrating that by just saying, you know what, Kiana, you are all that in a bag of chips. You are amazing, and you kept your commitment to yourself, girl. You know, good job for checking in with yourself today. Whatever it is, we're going to celebrate. And interestingly enough, when I looked at my list, which I hadn't looked at in several months, I realized that I had actually accomplished some of the things on my list already, and I didn't even know it, right? And so I'm missing out on some celebrations. So I got some celebrations that I need to have for myself to celebrate those 3 things and like 1/4 of another thing that I've done already. And without even like being intentional about it, I just completed them, right? And so yay me, yay Kiana. I'm so excited, and that just brought me a whole lot of joy too. It was like, damn girl, you actually are, even though you kind of had checked out a little bit, like, you know, it's deeply connected to my heart's desires. So it was in my heart, and yeah, I had actually already accomplished a few things, so I was pretty excited about that. So anyway, it's a short episode today, just me and you checking in with our goals, checking in with where you're at in May of 2023, with the things that you had created and determined for yourself for this year. Where you at with those? Checking those off the list, some of the things that you've already done. I love a list. I love checking off a list. So brings me great joy to put a little check mark next to something. So what are you checking off your list that you didn't know you could check off? Reassessing what do you need to delete from your list because it no longer applies? Who are you going to check in with, and who are your accountability partners so that we can keep ourselves aligned to what it is that we say we want for our lives? Yeah, so I hope this was helpful for you. I have had a good time sharing with you all how I got back on track. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to checking in with you guys in another month or so and letting you know. So y'all are my friends, right? Y'all are my accountability, right? So I'm looking forward to checking in with you all in another month or so. And so I'm at 3 1/4 of my goals thus far. So I'm going to give you all an update in about a month or so and let you know what else I've been able to get accomplished off of my list. And I'd love to hear where you all are. Keep us updated on that. Thank you all again so much for listening today. If you haven't already, make sure you are connected with us down to the Instagram on Chats with Friends. Make sure you answer the question and let us know what success means to you, what the definition of success means to you, and why you think you are worthy of success. I would love to hear it. We would all love to hear it. So who loves you? Kiana Peaches does. I'll chat with you later. Bye.